Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna go straight into it. I got a lot to talk about. So I apologize if this is all over the place. This is almost like right after the game. And obviously Chelsea versus Liverpool just happened. And Chelsea lost 2-0 to Liverpool. And yeah, again, I got quite a bit to say about this game. So I apologize if it's a little all over the place. So I'm just gonna go right into it. To go into the lineups, Chelsea had KEPA in goal, Alonso left back, Zuma and Christensen the center back pairs, James right back, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante the midfield trio, Mount left wing, Werner at the top, Havertz right wing in a 4-3-3 formation. Liverpool also in a 4-3-3 formation, Alisson in goal, Robertson left back, Virgil van Dijk and Fabinho, which surprised me a bit. The center back pair, Trent Alexander-Arnold, right back, Wijnaldum, Henderson, Keita, right? The midfield trio, Mane left wing, Firmino striker, Salah right wing. Now, the first half for this game was very, very even. It was honestly quite deadlocked. You could argue Liverpool maybe had the slight edge, but for the most part it was deadlocked, and it was reflected in the scoreline 0-0. That both teams looked solid defensively. Chelsea, more importantly, looked solid defensively. Fabinho did have a good game in the back for Liverpool, so that was a really smart move by Klopp. I didn't mention that in my prediction, but I did think that these coaches were going to try something different. But I was saying that more towards Lampard, not really Klopp. And lo and behold, Klopp's the one who tried something different. I know Fabinho has played center back for Liverpool before, but in such a big game, like, that was it turned out to be a really good decision. Liverpool were playing a very high line. I think they were trying to throw off Werner's game. Werner does like to make a lot of early runs. He likes to get behind the defense, and it got reflected in that game against Brighton, where he was offsides for a couple straight runs he tried making. So I think they were trying to throw off Werner, which was very smart from Klopp's point of view, trying to throw off that sort of supply line, not giving Werner the kind of space he wants, in front of a defense in order to get behind them. And that was honestly a really smart move by them to play a sort of offside trap to try and keep Werner at bay. Now, ultimately, Chelsea did manage to get through a few times, but I mean, and they did look dangerous, but they just couldn't make anything out of it. Again, Havertz, and I'll get to this at halftime because I honestly shouldn't look at Twitter in the middle of a game. Havertz had an okay showing again. He was slowly growing into it, but I think he just needs more time to adjust. And him getting brought off, him getting brought off at halftime really, to me, ultimately wouldn't have made much of a difference. I really don't think we really, because of the red card, we did not have a ton of opportunities on the attack. Now you could argue Havertz would have made the difference. Who knows? It's okay. Back to the first half. I'll get back to that in a second. Now, Chelsea managed to stay into the game a lot more than I thought they would, and it was a deadlock. It really was. Liverpool did have more shots, but ultimately I believe only one was on target. They had more possession in the first half. I did not write down the second half stats. That's how quickly I wanted to get into this. They only had a bit more passes. Like, even by the stats, it was fairly even. Liverpool did have more corners, and other than the shots, it was honestly a really even first half. Chelsea were creative on the attack, and they were different. Liverpool were using their pace. What did I write right here? Oh, they're using their pace down the wing more so. They're taking it down the wing and bringing it in. That's classic. Oh, that's classic Liverpool. I just hit my desk right there. But they were definitely using their pace. They were trying to get in fast and quick. Whereas Chelsea were actually surprisingly being creative. They were trying different things. They were trying something different every attack, and that's kind of why I think Chelsea were throwing Liverpool off, throwing their defense off. They weren't purely relying on a single attacker. I was honestly very impressed with how Chelsea have improved in that first half, both offensively and defensively. They looked much better. Kante, in particular, this game really stood out to me. He was making those defensive stops, and he was making those offensive runs and passes. He was showing off quite a bit of skill this game, and he looked very good. And then in the 45th 45th, 46th. It was +1 into the 45th, into the first half. 1 minute into additional time. Christensen panicked. I believe it was a ball from, I want to say it was Henderson who put the ball in. I could be completely wrong. I think it was Henderson. It might have been Wijnaldum. I'm not entirely sure who put the ball in, but ball goes in, and it's Mane versus Andreas Christensen, our center back. Mane being Liverpool's left wing. And Mane's chasing the ball down. Christensen's just behind him, and he tackles him. He literally, like, football tackles him. Takes him down to the ground. KEPA was rushing out a goal, which is why I believe the ref's initial reaction was a yellow card, and that makes sense at first. And then, but no, Christensen he tackles Mane. He takes Mane out of a goal scoring opportunity, which is an automatic red. And honestly, it was just a very reckless and stupid decision from Christensen that he panicked. He panicked hard, and in that, I think it also comes down to maybe not having as much trust in your keeper. You know, he did see KEPA coming out, but instead he chose to take matters into his own hands and didn't trust KEPA to make that stop, which unfortunately is the kind of spot we're in right now with KEPA. You can't trust him 100% of the time. However, again, it was a very stupid challenge. It's a ridiculous challenge from Christensen. He tackles Mane. He hugs him and takes him down. He tackles Mane. At least try and make it look slick. Like, no, it's blatantly obvious that was the red card. You tackled him, and that just completely changes the complexion of the game. Now Lampard has a big decision ahead of him. He basically has a choice: either shift the focus towards defense, which is what he ended up doing, or shift the focus towards the offense and pretty much go all out attack. Throw everything you have at Liverpool and try and go. The problem is Liverpool also shifted their game. They changed their game to do a lot more short passing, and they didn't really change taking it out of the wing and bringing it in, because ultimately they did score off of that, the first goal. But Liverpool did shift their game to short passing, to keeping possession, and again making those short passes around and just bringing around the defense. You saw in their first goal came in the 50th minute. The way they just so quickly formed a triangle over Alonso. They brought it out, then back in, then back out, and then back in. It was just so fluid. It was impressive. It was impressive to watch. You got to give it to them. That goal was so impressive. The way they bring it out, they bring it back in, and then they give the through ball. All of this, Alonso's chasing. He's chasing. He's going around. He loses his marker, and then I believe it was Salah who gets in behind Marcus Alonso for the pass back out. The cross is brought in, and Mane heads it home. And that's just what Liverpool, they shifted their game to become more offensive and possession based. And they became terrifying. That Liverpool that you really feared last season. And ultimately, I don't disagree with Lampard's decision to go defensive. However, I do think when you try and play a sort of heavy counterattacking game, where you absorb a lot of pressure from Liverpool, especially from Liverpool, you're gonna struggle a lot. And Liverpool love to suffocate you. They love to suffocate. They love to keep you in your own third and just suffocate you with passing, crosses, and possession. And they just love when you give them the possession. You better have a really good counterattack. You better have a really stout defense and a really good counterattack to be able to get out of that position and get up and potentially get that, counterattacking goal. We don't have that. That's the issue. Now, the substitution at the half, for Liverpool, they brought on Thiago for Henderson, who made a very good appearance off the bench. He had a solid appearance. Thiago's Thiago. It was a very good signing for Liverpool. Now, the other one that I saw caused a lot of unrest was bringing on Tomori for Havertz. Now, a lot of people will compare Havertz to Mount because they do play Kai Havertz to Mason Mount because they do play similar roles. However, the way they play those roles is different. Mason is more of a workhorse. He's the player who just has unlimited stamina and is all over the pitch and just goes. Havertz is a bit slower. He's a more technical player who likes to be more technical on the ball and just play it a bit slower. Now, the problem is Havertz was taking a bit too long to grow into the game. Now, do I think he got substituted a little early? Yes. Ultimately, I do think that one of the midfielders, more than likely Kovacic, who ended up coming off, was gonna come off. Now, the defensive substitution, I'm not against. Tomori did have a really good appearance off the bench. He had a solid appearance. He looked solid back there, composed yet again. That's why I think when Thiago Silva comes back into the lineup, I think that maybe Tomori and Thiago Silva will be the duo. Now, Zuma didn't exactly have a bad game. For a while, I thought, Zuma and Christensen were about the same, but then Christensen makes a stupid decision. And it shows me that Zuma is more disciplined between the two of them, to be honest. And we need that. So either Thiago Silva and Kurt Zuma at center back together, or Thiago Silva and Fikayo Tomori. Whichever pair comes in, I think it'll be good for the team. Now back to the Mount Havertz thing. I honestly thought ultimately Havertz and Mount were both going to come off. I did think that ultimately they were both going to come off. That's why I thought the substitution really didn't make a difference who was going to come off first. I knew it. I knew Liverpool were going to start pressing us. We're going to start coming at us hard with these, just keeping possession, and we're going to come at us. They're going to use the number advantage. You're going to use that extra space, and they did. Ultimately, they used the possession. They used their short passing game, and they took it to Chelsea. And we really couldn't do anything in the second half. I'd argue the second half probably was like 80-20 possession to Liverpool. Like, we barely touched the ball at all. But then Mount didn't come off. Ultimately, Jorginho and Kovacic came off for Abraham and Barkley, which I did not agree with at all. Barkley in particular, I thought Kovacic and Jorginho were doing just fine, and bringing on Barkley really didn't make a difference at all. I thought we needed probably Callum to come on for Mount ultimately at the end if we were going to stick to a 4-3-3. Now, the thing with Callum is Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's naturally a winger. I feel like people are stuck looking at Callum at his full potential. That's the problem. Is a lot of people are like, start Callum. Why is he not starting? Start him. I feel like people keep looking at him looking at him at his full potential. We know what he's capable of. We've seen flashes of it. The problem is he has not proven to be consistent enough to stay in the starting lineup. He has flashes, don't get me wrong, but he cannot stay consistent enough to stay in that starting lineup. Now, do I think he deserves appearances off the bench? Yes. Now that I agree with. Now I do agree, yes. He should get an appearance off the bench. He should have gotten an appearance off the bench. However, to start the game, no. And a lot of people's arguments that, he's a natural winger. He's got pace, this, and that. Okay, fine. But the problem is what is he really going to add to the game? A lot of people complain that Mount does a lot. He does a lot of tracking. He does a lot of, he adds a lot of pressure, but ultimately results in nothing. Callum has a lot of pace and a lot of technical ability, but most of the time in a lot of the appearances he's recently made, it amounts to nothing. So you want to trade Mount for Callum Hudson-Odoi when you're going to end up having the same complaints about both of them. Ultimately in the second half, we needed Mount as a presence because we needed stamina. And we needed stamina. We needed them to go. We needed to last against Liverpool because they were just going to keep coming at us. And again, they did. They just pressed us like crazy. And also, the other thing I saw was that Giroud should have started. No, I really don't think Giroud would have made much of a difference. We needed someone with pace up front who could get forward. Ultimately, I mean, who knows? But we needed someone to... Because what Giroud would have brought was a physical presence up front. Right? That big presence up front, especially in the air. The problem is Van Dijk is like Giroud's equal, and I just don't know if it would have made much of a difference to start Giroud over Werner. I'm guessing is what people wanted. Maybe Mount and put Giroud up top, Werner to the left. But I do agree that 4-3-3 is just not right for us right now. Not until we get like Ziyech and or Pulisic back. Pulisic. I always forgot to pronounce it. I'm just going to say Pulisic from now on. Now, I do, like I said in my prediction video, I do think a 4-2-3-1 would benefit the team the most. Having Jorginho and Conte in the holding roles, Kovacic as center attacking mid, and then Havertz and Mount as center attacking mids with Werner up top. I just don't know if we can use a 4-3-3 as effectively right now. That's the issue, and I feel like that's something Lampard does need to realize. However, fans also have to realize this is Lampard's third season coaching. This is barely his 3rd season. Last season was derailed and it was all over the place, and we still managed a top 4 finish. Season before that, he had Derby County and almost got them the promotion. So I feel like all these people who are saying, you know, already Lampard out, what is Lampard doing? He is crazy. He is, you know, so dumb and this and that, are the same people that wanted Lampard in. From the beginning, I was very hesitant. I mean, I was open to the idea of bringing Lampard in, but I was also hesitant. I was hesitant because at the time, it was barely gonna be his 2nd year. Now, I'm still hesitant. He still hasn't fully proven himself to me, but he also hasn't given me a reason to give up on him. Now, one thing I do agree with, he does kind of have to let go of that relationship with Mount. He needs to realize that Mount does need to come off sometimes. Sometimes he needs to come off, and it's okay. It's okay if Mount comes off. That I do agree with. Him not starting is debatable. Him, Mount being, this is what I'm talking about, not starting is debatable. Whether you want to say he deserves to be a bench player or not, that's debatable. But him coming off, yes, I believe occasionally he should come off. And just because he can last every single game doesn't mean he should. Now that I do agree with. He needs to get rid of that little relationship he has going with him. In the second half, like I mentioned, Kamane scores 50th minute, and then Mane and then KEPA in the 54th minute makes an awful, one of the most classic, you know, keeper errors, holding onto the ball at their feet and just making a bad pass. Mane intercepts it, puts it in, super easy as you like. Now, Jorginho, I will admit, had like this much fault in that goal. I'm like 0.01% fault because he did sit still in front of KEPA. Could have moved, could have shifted. However, at the end of the day, KEPA should have recognized who was charging at him and should have made the decision to, I think he could have picked it up. I'm not 100% on that, whether it got passed back to him. I don't remember. Either if he could have pick it up, or, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not an easy situation, but he could have easily just sent it to the left or given up a corner. I mean, that would have been better than giving up a goal. And he ultimately just makes a very, very poor decision, an awful mistake. And it goes from 1-0 where maybe we have a chance to 2-0 where Liverpool are literally just going to hold the ball. They're just going to hold the ball, hold possession, and we're done. We definitely need a new keeper. Edouard Mendy should be coming soon, and he should get the starting role immediately. Caballero should start the next game. I believe, who is it against? I already forgot. Caballero should start the next game. KEPA. The problem is we're not there in the training sessions. We're not there in the back, the behind the scenes. You know, a lot of people will say, well, how do they perform in games? And the problem is they can perform amazing in training sessions, and so they rightfully earn a spot in the starting 11, and they perform poorly. You can't predict that. You can't say you know what goes on in the background, because you don't. Ultimately, Lampard and his staff are the ones that know what's going on in the background. So that's how the starting lineups are decided. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And maybe he felt that KEPA, you know, had a good week and he was feeling good. We can't control that. We do need a new keeper though. We do. I just don't think Caballero would be long term. That's the issue with Caballero. I do agree with him starting, but I just feel like long term, I feel like he's a little slower, and long term he might not be the answer. And that was in the 54th minute. Mane scores 2-0, and honestly from there, it was just smooth sailing for Liverpool. We had a chance here or there. We had a penalty. Werner made a really good run into the box. Penalty 73rd minute, and Jorginho missed. Jorginho, it was a kind of a weak penalty, but I'll give it to Alisson. Alisson, he did very well. He knows Jorginho, and he stalled, waited until right before Jorginho kicked, and then made his move. He did not budge. That kick did not budge Alisson, and he knew exactly where Jorginho was going, and I gotta give credit where credit's due. That was an amazing penalty save, and very, very good awareness from Alisson. Other than that, the short passing killed us, and Mane was a workhorse. I'll give him that. He freaking killed it in that second half. He really helped take over for Liverpool, and he was one of the main reasons why we struggled so much. He was coming at our defense like it was nothing. Ultimately, again, the second half just kind of was Liverpool's. Especially after the penalty, it just was Liverpool. They kept the ball. Occasionally they had a chance, and they were just holding possession. And the last 20 minutes or so were very dry because it was just Liverpool won. Liverpool won. The game was over. By the time the penalty was missed, the game was over. That was our chance, and it flew by. And Liverpool just held possession, and that was that. But overall, the first half is definitely something to look forward to, something to look towards as a showing that we are already improving. You know, last week against Brighton wasn't the most impressive win. It wasn't the most impressive showing. It was decent. It was okay. But now in that first half, we showed that we can keep up. The problem is we're not disciplined enough to keep up. That's the issue. Is where's the discipline? Where's the calmness in the storm? You know what I mean? We clearly still have a ways to go before we can seriously challenge for the title. Like I mentioned in my predictions video, this is a game that could have huge implications down the line. It's only the second game of the season. But who knows? Maybe these 3 points will be the ultimate difference if Chelsea can manage to keep up and keep that discipline throughout the season. Find that level of consistency. Again, the red card changed the complexion of the game. And, I mean, you can't judge a manager when you're not in their shoes. You know, you're not a manager. You know, you just watch the sport. I watch the sport. We all watch the sport. We're not all managers. You know, try putting yourself in Lampard's shoes. You know, being a soccer manager is honestly one of the most stressful jobs, because one bad game and suddenly you're on the chopping block. You know, and so naturally you're gonna try to do your best to stay up, but you got to make some difficult decisions. And I feel like Lampard did make a difficult decision by bringing off Havertz, who really, I'm sorry, he really didn't have a great game. He was not having a great game. Yes, he was linking up. So was everyone else. Like, there was a lot of linking. There was a lot going on for every player, like positively in the first half. So, and I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think people are just judging Lampard too quickly, too early, without putting themselves in his shoes. It's so easy to say, you know, that was, you know, horrible tactical decision. When in reality, when you get a red card, everything goes out the window, and you have to immediately come up with a new plan. Yes, you can plan for a red card, but at the same time, no, you can't plan for a red card because you're not expecting a red card. It shouldn't happen. I do agree with the fact that Lampard never really seems to have a plan B. That is something he needs to work on. He has plan A, and that's it. He makes minor adjustments to that plan, and that's that. He does need to start having a plan B. I feel like Klopp just showed him today how to be creative in order to stop the other team. You know, Lampard still has a ways to go. Again, this is only his third season. It's our fault for pushing for him to get, you know, brought in. I mean, I know he was a player and the nostalgia is there, but well, not necessarily nostalgia, but whatever. Like, I know we all pushed for him to come in. A lot of the fans pushed for him to come in, but it's still only his third season. What do you expect? Like, Klopp's been managing for like 10 plus years. He was in Bundesliga too for like what, 6 something years, whatever. And then he gets his break with Dortmund and he gets to Liverpool. Like, these coaches have had a long time. Lampard's in his third season. Of course he's gonna get out coached. He's gonna get out tacticked. I know that's not a word, but I'm making it a word. He's gonna get outdone by these other managers who have had more and more and more experience, who understand what it takes to be creative and different in order to win a game. So I think we just need to give Lampard a little bit of time. And a lot of people are like, we already given him a season. A season? Like, come on. You have to give him a little bit of time. Now, by the end of the season, we're done. If by halfway through the season it seems like we're nowhere, then you know what? Maybe it'll be time to move on. But the problem is finding a manager is another issue. But if he's not giving anything to the team, then yes, I agree. By that point, maybe we should consider it. But for now, we need to keep our heads up. Keep your heads up, because next game is already going to come up. And we need to be ready. We have the Carabao Cup matchup on Wednesday. And then next week, who is it? Let me check real quick. Okay, so it's West Brom, which should hopefully be a chance to, first of all, let some new signings get out. Now, we could, against Barnsley, let some new signings run and get some game time, but ultimately I think West Brom will be the place that we see a lot of these newer guys. Hopefully Pulisic by that point is good and ready to go. The good part about playing Barnsley is we have a chance to rest a lot of players who have been nursing injuries, these nagging injuries, like Aspilicueta, who didn't even start. Maybe that was a tactical decision. I actually don't think he was injured, but Pulisic, Chilwell apparently almost fit. Thiago Silva, I think it came down to match fitness. Those players who need that extra time, I mean, they basically have an extra week now. So we have things to look forward to. In terms of individual performances, I honestly thought everyone did really well in the first half. Again, Havertz, Mount were both equally as slow, I thought, really coming out of it. And either substitution he made, I don't think would have made a difference. I really don't. Because we really we did not get a lot of offensive opportunities. We had maybe 5 to 6 chances, something like that. And like I said, who knows, maybe Havertz would have scored on one of those chances. But ultimately, I don't think it really would have made a difference. I feel like Liverpool had full control of the game coming out of the gate. I mean, the first 5-10 minutes, they literally, we barely touched the ball. It's like 95-5 possession. That, Liverpool controlled us in the first 10 minutes. I really don't know how much of a difference it would have made whether we brought off Havertz or Mount. I do think the substitution maybe came a little early, maybe came with the wrong person at first. But I really don't think it would have made much difference ultimately. Our defense did really well today. Alonso, again, was probably the shakiest part of the defense. We played the same one as Brighton, the same defense as Brighton. Alonso, again, a bit shaky. Christensen was fine up until that point, and when he got a red card, very stupid decision again. Lack of discipline. It's just that really made me very annoyed, very angry, because more so annoyed because it's just a really dumb challenge from Christensen. But overall, I mean, first half showed us what Chelsea are very much capable of this season. The second half very much showed what we still need to work on. What, issues are still glaring. It showed us Lampard still has a bit to go. It shows our defense still has a bit to go. It shows our midfield's probably still our best part of the defense. Conte honestly looked like his former self. He was honestly the one player that stood out to me in that second half for Chelsea. And Tomori. Both of them stood out for me in that second half, and both of them were still trying to get something out of that game in the second half. But ultimately, I think we still need to give Chelsea some time. And that's what I think that's what this game really proved. We just need time. We need time to figure out what our real identity is and to get these new signings incorporated in the team. I really hope that they can come around against West Brom so we can really see what this team looks like with everyone fit. Well, almost everyone. I think Ziyech is still going to take some time to get back. They shouldn't rush any injuries back. Any players who are injured back, give them their time. But I hope we get to see like Chilwell, Thiago Silva, Pulisic come back for his first, appearance of the season. And we get to see what this team really looks like, as they start growing into it. But again, time. Nobody said all these signings were just going to gel immediately and be used to the Premier League immediately. We need time. And that's what this game really shows. It was a bit of slap in the face to say, you're not ready yet. You still need time. Just because you made these signings doesn't mean you're ready. And I agree. With time. With this imaginary person that I just made up. But yeah, that was my review for Chelsea versus Liverpool. Ultimately, again, is a great first half. Disappointing second. Simple as that. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, leave that bell on so you know when I upload. Twitter is @BlueHermit1. Instagram is BlueHermit_. Please share socials with all your friends, family, everybody you know. Let the people know Blue Hermit's where it's at, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.